All right. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Sorry. Please 1 minute, please. Okay. Good morning once again, everyone. I'm Israel Ikoli. Um, I'm the brand and creative executive for A4S Limited, and I will be talking quickly on the topic marketing research and market intelligence. Um, we'll be looking under this subject. We'll be looking at uh, understanding customers and the marketplace. Um, what do we intend to achieve after this teaching? We intend to look at what market research is. We by understanding its core purpose and what it is about. We also intend to look at market information, how it reveals customers and market insights. We also are going to be looking at big data and MIS. That's the role um, of market research in modern marketing. All right, next slide. So let's just look at what marketing research is about. So as you can see from our screen, marketing research is more than just communication. It is about understanding customers' wants and needs. All right. It goes beyond just communication. It's about marketing. So it's about understanding customers' wants and needs. It also allows marketers to listen, assess market needs, and bridge gaps by enabling data-driven decisions and not just assumptions. Okay, let's slide. So let's just look at this on a broader scale. Marketing research defined the function that according to American Marketing Association, that's AMA. They said the function that links consumers, customers, and the public to markets to the marketer through information. That is um, what marketing research is all about. So, what does this mean? What does this mean? Just quoting what the American Marketing Association are saying in this place. You know, when you're making marketing research, you must be able to link consumers, uh, customers, and the public, to the marketer through information. So, just like you have the word research and you have the word marketing, because we may know what marketing is and we may also know what research is. So as you do your research, it's very, very important that you link the information you get from the consumer, to also the customers and also the public. You bring all of these together, and when you bring all of this together, you have the marketing research. So in doing this, you must be able to specify information. You must also be able to design the method through which you want to market a product. You must also collect data. You must also analyze results, and you must also communicate your findings. You know, in doing all of this, when you make your research, you must specify the information. Um, you must design the methods. You must collect the data. You must analyze the results and also communicate your findings. for future references. Next slide. So let's look at quickly the importance of marketing information. The importance of marketing intelligence. You can we're looking at oh sorry, this I just want to make sure that my network is okay. So importance of marketing information, and we're saying that marketing information can also be called business, competitive, or marketing intelligence. So what are the importance? Number one, it helps us to identify opportunities. It helps us to evaluate strengths and weaknesses. It also helps us to make strategic decisions. Under identifying opportunities, it helps us to review market gaps and potential growth areas. So when you have a marketing information, through the research you've conducted, it helps you to identify opportunities, by reviewing the market gaps and potential growth areas, in the market. It also, in number two, we talked about it helps to evaluate strength and weakness. Under this, you're able to know the internal capabilities and of the market and also the external environments that affect, the market. We're talking about the strengths, and the weaknesses. So strength and weakness are drawn from internal capabilities, and they're also drawn from the external environment, of a market. Number three, we said we wrote here strategic decision. I was saying that it supports long-term and tactical business choices. Before you arrive at this place, of course, through like we said in number two, through evaluation of internal capabilities and external environment that may affect a market. You now know how to make strategic decision that helps you to support long-term and tactical business choices. So let's look at the real-world impact. The real-world impact of market information, also of marketing information. The real-world impact of marketing information. Okay, so let's look at number one. We have the label, and we're saying that under this we have um, uh, an example of Lego where research on how children use products and parents' perceptions are being done. We also have universities, all right, where we gather students' perceptions, for recruitment materials. Let's just look at this one. I think this will make more sense to us for because a lot of us are, of course, very, very familiar with fast food. And we're saying that okay, when you make a marketing, you're trying to get a marketing information for a fast food business. You analyze the purchase times for efficient inventory and staffing. So all of this, put together from what was said in the last slide, where we talked about identifying opportunities, strengths and weaknesses. Sorry, identifying opportunities, evaluating strengths and weaknesses, and making strategic decisions. The real world impacts, that does this as on fast food businesses is that It helps you to analyze times, analyze purchase times for efficient inventory and staffing. Let's look at the next slide. So big data, the new frontier. So I'm going to come back to, okay. Big data, the new frontier, sorry. So when we're talking about big data, as far as the marketing information is concerned, we look at vast exponential growing records, and we also look at um, the difficulty it has for companies to analyze, the market due to constant change. So let's look at the three V's of big data. Three V's of big data. Number one, we look at volume. Number two, we look at velocity. And number three, we look at variety. Under volume, we look at massive amounts of data, more than ever witnessed. As of course we know when we're talking about volume, we're talking about some massive amounts of data. When we talk about something in terms of the largeness of of the quantity. So looking at the big data, we're looking at the massive amounts of that of sorry, looking at volume under the three V's of big data, we're looking at the massive amounts of data, more than ever witnessed. Now, velocity. Velocity has to do with how does this big data grow at an ever increasing exponential rate. That's talking about velocity. Volume talks about the massive amounts of data. Velocity talks about the speed. All right, talks about the speed. The pace at which the data grows, over a period of time. Then there is the variety. Variety has to do with diverse data from countless unique creators. Why invest in big data? Why should we invest in big data? Why should we invest in big data? Number one, we should invest in big data because it is a valuable asset for enterprises. We should invest in big data because it is a valuable asset for enterprises. Now, 96% of Fortune 1000 companies report success with big data and AI. Then 99% are pursuing new of existing big data programs. So it is very, very important that when we're making marketing information, we should also look at the big size. We should look at the lucrative size, which has to do with big data. And we've said that you have to look at the volume, you have to look at the velocity, and you have to look at the variety. And we're saying that it's very, very important that we invest in big data because it is a valuable asset for enterprises. And most 41,000 companies, about 96% in the world, report success with big data and AI. And 99% are pursuing new and existing big data programs. Marketing information systems. Marketing information systems, MIS. So capitalizing on the vast data world, we have to follow these systems. And number one, we have to collect data, and collection of data has to be internal and has to be done internally and done externally. All right. Um, After you've collected your data, it's very, very important that you analyze them. You don't just start using data, because you've collected them. It's very, very important that you analyze, the data you've collected. By analyzing data, you're able to extract interesting findings, from what you've collected. Let's say, for instance, you're trying to get do a marketing. You've done your survey, you've done your research, and you gather a whole lot of data, from your internally and externally. All right. Um, it's very, very important that you don't just use everything that you've gotten. It's very, very important that you analyze, what you've gotten, because one thing about data collection is that not everything is 100% factual. Okay, so it's very, very important that you extract interesting findings, and as a result of as a result of analyzing and extracting those interesting findings, you now use those ones that are useful to you and useful to your organization or useful to your marketing team. So that brings us to the next system, which is reports. Report has to do with supporting marketing efforts. You support market efforts, through the analysis that has been done. Next slide, unlocking market insights. Insight has to do with um, we've talked about getting data collection, data analyzation, and data reports. So all of these now forms an insights that you want to work with. So how do we unlock this market insights? You have to understand that your market is crucial for success. You have to understand that market is crucial for success. So this presentation explores the essential sources of marketing information and outlines a robust research plan to guide your decision. We're saying that it's very, very important that you um, unlock your market insights, by exploring the essential sources of market information and outline a robust research plan to guide your decision. Let me say this at this junction, in case probably maybe you've missed one or two things from what I've been saying from the beginning. Um, when you're making marketing research, like I said, not all information, you may gather a whole lot of data, but not all information may be useful to you. So it's very, very important that as you make this research and you gather out this information from your research or your survey, whichever way you intend to carry out your research. It's very, very important that you explore the essential sources of the marketing information that you have and outline a robust research plan that guides your decision. The end product of every research is that at the end of the day, just like we said, in the previous slides, I said somewhere in the previous slide, that under the importance of marketing information, we said that the end product of marketing information is that you don't just collect information. You don't just collect information. Every information you collect at the end of the day must push you to making strategic decisions. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? At the end of the day, when gather the information, the purpose of the information is for you to identify opportunity, identify risks, identify your strengths, identify your weakness. When you've done all of this whole identification and evaluation, the end product of your market research is that you make future decisions that help you to maximize success in your business and in your industry. So um, So that's the end game of marketing research or marketing information. So at the end of the day, you must be able to make guided decision, that help you to galvanize success for your organization. All right. Sources of market information. Sources of market information. Marketing information comes from different sources, all right, categorized to meet institutional needs. Marketing information comes from different sources, categorized to meet institutional needs. So we're going to explore internal, external, and competitive intelligence. So number one, let's look at the internal data. We're looking at how do we get this marketing information. And we're saying that we're going to be looking at the internal um, source of getting data or getting information. We're looking at the external. Um, we're looking at the external um, source of getting information, and also looking at the competitive intelligence way of getting information. So under internal um, source or internal data, just like you see on the screen, we have information already within your company. Information already within your company. I like you to understand something. I like you to understand something that uh, there are two types of customers in every organization. There are two types of customers in every industry. But a lot of times we neglect one and focus so much on the other ones. So we have the internal customers and we have the external customers. When you're selling, it's not just the people that are buying from you externally that you focus on. Of course, those people those people are people you cannot do without. But a lot of companies or a lot of organizations neglect their internal consumers, which are the employees in the organization, the staffs, the workforce, the laborers. We tend to neglect them, but we forget somehow that those people are at the end of the day, they are representative of of the organization. They are like what's the word? What's the word I should use now? They are like the ambassadors of those of the products, of the organization. If, for instance, I'm working in an organization that sells bread, and people know that I'm working in that organization, there are certain things that they cannot bring, to the person they are buying from outside that they will bring to me because they know I'm working in that organization. So information already within your company helps, to it goes a long way also. So it's very, very important that as you seek marketing information, that you don't neglect your internal customers, you don't neglect your internal consumers, you don't neglect the people, who are like the ambassadors of the organization, they are ambassadors of the product, you don't neglect them. It's very, very important. A lot of companies neglect their internal consumers, maybe because they are being paid, maybe because they assume that these people are working for the organization, so we don't need to, we don't need their input. But it's very, very important for every organization that will succeed, in the marketplace. It's very, very important that you um, take information, already within your companies. Those people have a whole lot to offer. Those people have a whole lot to tell you about the products. They have a whole lot to tell you about how the market, the products can also do well in the market. Let's use, for instance, the internal marketers, the people who do marketing. They interface with the customers on a daily basis. They interface with the customers from time to time. They hear what the customers are, get to say about the product. So it's very, very important that as we, get marketing information, from as we seek to get marketing information from people that buy our products outside, that we don't neglect those ones that are within the organization. I've said a little already about uh, the external consumers, which are people that we always expect at the end of the day to get information from. So let's just move to the next one, the external data. External data and information originating from outside the organization. This one is almost like what every organization is waiting for. All right. So I will not say so much on this. Of course, I said a little about it in the first. All right. So the sources of marketing information, I've said we have the internal data, which are the information we get, from within the organization. The external has to do with the one you get from outside, that are originating from outside the organization. There is now the third one, which is the competitive intelligence. Competitive intelligence. And how do you get this? These are insights that are gathered from marketplace about rivals, your your competitors. You know, as much as you pay attention to your internal from as much as you will pay attention to information that you get from within your organization and also get from people who use the product outside there, which is the external information, it's very, very important that you don't neglect the third one, which is the insights that you gather from the marketplace about your rivals. It's very, very important. It's very, very important that you don't neglect the information or insights that you get, from the marketplace about your rivals. So putting all of these whole things together, we have the sources of marketing information. Next slide. Now, external data plus databases. External data plus databases. We're saying that external data provides a broad view of the market, including customers' feedback, competitors' websites, and big data. External data provides a broad view of the market, including customers' feedback, competitor websites, and big data. Now let's look at some examples of the external data. Number one, we have the customer surveys. We have customer surveys. Under customers survey, it has to do with gleaning insights directly from the consumers. It's very, very important that from time to time you ask your customers, people who are using your products, ask them. It's very, very important that you know their views about your product. It's very, very important that you know that a marketer knows, gets survey, gets a knowledge, a first-hand knowledge from the customers that use their products. It's very, very important that you get insights, directly from them. Also have the competitors' website. It's very, very important that you analyze pricing and product information from your competitors. Very, very, very important. It's very, very important. I was in the middle of a conversation earlier this week, and somebody was talking about how much they charge for a particular product, and how that somebody who was buying the product was like, it's very, very expensive. And the next conversation was on how those persons that are also producing that same product, how much they were selling and all of that. So it's very, very important that beyond just asking your customers how they feel about your product, it's very, very important that your competitors, the people who are selling the same products or offering the same service, just like you are. It's very, very important that you analyze their pricing and also analyze, their product information. Okay. Neglecting your competitors is almost like neglecting the success that you should enjoy as an entrepreneur or as a marketer. Okay, so social media and news. It's very, very important that you monitor public opinions, monitor public sentiment, and industry trends. From time to time, it's very, very, very important that you don't neglect monitoring public public sentiment and industry trends. It's very, very important. Neglecting all of these old data is as good as you're setting yourself up, for failure. So there is also journal publication. Journal publication has to do with assessing academic and industry research. Keep researching. A good marketer, or a good marketer has to keep making more research about the industry, making more market research, making more product research. It's very, very important, that you look at all of this old data. So we said, external data, so you can get your external data from customer surveys, you can get it from competitors' websites, you can get it from social media and news, you can also get it from uh, journal publication. So why valuable external data collection can be financially intensive and time consuming. It is very, very important that you don't neglect, you know, any of them. It's very, very important that you tick all the necessary boxes. So we talked about the external data. So let's look at the internal data. We're going to be looking at the internal data, alongside with some competitive intelligence. So internal data offers historic insight, while competitive intelligence provides a strategic edge. So under internal data, we look at sales figures, promotional effectiveness, pricing history, R&D, uh, and logistics. Okay, so you identify past success and areas of for improvement. Like I said before, that internal data has to do with information already the within your company. And this can be done, I've said this can be done, by, from time to time, you create meetings, you create platforms where you get to engage the marketers, you interface with the buyers on daily basis, you have conferences, with key stakeholders in the organizations, you analyze sales. That's why we're talking about sales figures. You are now analyze sales. Are people buying your product? People, what's from on quarterly basis or monthly basis, you analyze your sales. You look at your sales figures. Are we increasing or are we dropping? It's very, very important. You look at your promotional effectiveness. If you spend money on branding, if you spend money, for on promotions, what return do you get, from the promotions that you do? Maybe you go for a road show or something. What do you what's the effectiveness of all of those promotions that you do? So it's very, very important that when you that like we said, we it's very important that you look at this thing. You look at your pricing history. You look at the cost of logistics. You look at the cost of R&D. Identify past success and areas for improvement. An organization that is not looking at all of these things I've just said is as good as that organization is heading, for a doomsday. Okay, so that's under internal data. Okay, so we'll move to competitive intelligence. So don't forget that we said that competitive intelligence has to do with analyzing competitors' products, price, distribution, and promotion strategy to understand market positioning and customer choices. You must know your competitors, you must know how much they are selling, their products. You must know how they are distributing their products. You must know also their promotional strategies. This helps you to position yourself very well, in the market, and also how to appease your customers. It's very, very important, that you understand how the competitors are operating in the market. It will help you to do well as a marketer. We move to the next slide. 7 steps to a successful marketing research plan. 7 steps to a successful marketing research plan. So we said that a research plan is a structured approach. Sorry. A structured approach ensures effective data-driven decision. A structured approach ensures effective data-driven decision. So each step is crucial for a successful project. So when you're going to conduct a marketing research plan, it's very, very important that you look at this. We look at this um, 7 key areas. Number one, you must define the problem. By defining the problem, you must identify the core issues and research objective. You must identify the core issues and research objective. If, for instance, we want to set up a marketing research, we must um, first define the problem. What do we seek to address? What do we seek to redress? So if you don't ask yourself those questions, you may get the whole marketing research plan very, very wrong. So you must identify the core issue and research objective. What do you seek to address and what do you seek to redress? At the end of your research, what do you seek to achieve? It's very, very important that you define the problem. Number two, you must develop the research plan. You must develop the research plan. You must outline data collection methods, timeline, and budget. Beyond defining a problem, you must develop the research plan. You must outline how are you going to collect your data. You must set a timeline, and you must also set a budget, because along the line there will be a place where you need to actually do some form of implementation. So there must be a budget, there must be a plan timeline. So you must develop the research plan. Okay, that's number two. Number three, you must select your data collection method. I said a little about this in number two. I said you must outline your data collection method. So we're saying this again in um, um, in number three. We're saying that you must select your data collection method. In number two, you outline your data collection methods. Like I said, not all methods. At the end of the day, it's not all method that you want to use. You want to use one at the end of the day. So you must select your data collection method. So by doing this, you choose your appropriate technique. You choose appropriate techniques for gathering information. Do you want to go into the market? Example of this, you ask, do I want to go into the market and ask the market women, questions? Do I want to go into a particular location and ask people who use our products how our products has been effective to them. What do they like about our products? What do they not like? You must choose appropriate technique for gathering information. You must choose appropriate technique for gathering information. The number four, you must design the sample. You must design the sample. And to achieve this, you have to determine who to include in your study. You have to determine who to include in your study. If at the end of the day you've done, through your data collection selection, for whatever information you want, you've gotten, you must design a sample. So by so doing, you determine who you want to include in your study. Number five, you collect the data. Under data collection, you execute the chosen data gathering method. Like I said from number two, I said um, you must set a timeline and a you must set a budget. You must keep a budget aside, for execution. So we are saying in number five that you must collect the data. Whatever data you've selected, of course, you've gone to the market, you've gone to the places or a location where your products or your services is being offered. You've asked questions, you've done this, you've done XYZ. So you're now collecting the data, and we said in number four that you have to design the sample. So number five is saying that you must collect the data by executing the chosen data gathering method. There has to be some form of execution at the end of the day. Number six, analyze and analyze and interpret data. Make sense of the data collected, make sense of the data collected information. It's not just enough that we go and gather data. It's very, very essential that we make sense of the collected data. How do you intend to use the data that you collected at the end of the day? It's very, very important that you try to interpret. Maybe that's the word. You have to interpret the data that was collected. How visible is this data going to be? How visible? How are we going to put it to use? It's not enough to gather data. It's very, very important that you make sense of it. How is it going to be used? What is the reality of the data in the real marketplace? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. What is the reality of the data in the real marketplace? If, for instance, we've gathered the data that says, uh, um, okay, sorry. If, for instance, we gather a data that says we should do so and so, how do we make sense of the data? I'm trying to give an example here to make sense of what I'm saying. Thank God we're talking about making sense of the collected data. I'm trying to make and what example should we use? Trying to what example should we use now? Okay, no example is coming to my mind, but I just want to connect you to what I'm saying so that it can make more sense to you. Um, uh, okay, so make sense of the collected information. How applicable? You must look at the applicability. Maybe I should use that. Look at the applicability of. It's not just enough that you go present you've gotten the data and you want to present it to you must ask yourself how sensible or how realistic or how applicable is this data that we've gathered. How does it How is it going to help us against our competitors? What better edge what better edge are we going to have in the marketplace over our competitors? So these things are very, very important. Finally, prepare the research reports. After you've defined the problem, after you've developed the research plan, after you've selected the data collected, after you've designed the sample, after you've collected the data, after you've analyzed and interpreted the data, you have to prepare the research report. Let's not forget the we're talking about making a successful marketing research plan. So you present it, of course, some persons have designated you to do this. You present it to them, by communicating your findings and the recommendations. A proper research is not just about making findings. A better research is about making recommendations, because your recommendations is where the strategic decision, for the future as it relates to that product, comes into play. So it's very, very important that you communicate your findings and your recommendations. Next slide. Research plan and data types. So research plans. So let's look at data types. We have two types of, or let's just say that research data is broadly classified into two: the primary and the secondary. Under the primary, we have surveys, we have experiments, and we have focus groups. So we're saying that it is uh, unique collected specifically for current projects. It can be timely, but it is very, very expensive. Okay, it can be timely and it can be very, very expensive. And examples of these that I said at the beginning of examples of primary data is surveys, experiments, and focus groups. Okay, surveys, experiments, and focus group. So when we're saying that it can be timely but very expensive, you're going to get, let's say for instance, you send a survey to a marketplace or to a group of persons who are using your product. Hmm? Maybe you gather them, you give them a survey. It takes a lot. You might use incentive to you might give them incentive, to get their attention, to fill the surveys and all of that. So it is timely. You're going to get quick response. That's why when they're saying that it is timely, you're going to get quick response, but it is very, very expensive, to run. Okay. Let's look at the secondary data. So secondary data are data collected for another purpose but useful for current research. And examples of these are journal articles, company records, and census. So I'm saying that this is inexpensive, it is affordable, but may be outdated. Sorry. So we're saying that it can be affordable, but may be outdated over time. It will be outdated. So the difference between the primary data and the secondary data is that one is collected specifically for a current project. The other one is collected for another purpose but useful for current research. So the primary data is collected, majorly for a current project, but the secondary data is collected for another purpose but useful for current research. So which one will you use if you were gathering um, if you're gathering a data, for your marketing team? So we said we're looking at a research plan, and we've looked at how to collect data. Now we want to look at research types. So we said that different research types are specific objective from initial exploration to establishing cause and effect. Number one, it is exploratory. General information understanding. Under exploratory, it can be general information understanding the industry landscape, and that can be done through the focus groups. When the focus groups is all about you get a designated people, you get a designated people, to face a particular place, and get a general information, for your industry, that relates to your industry and the products or the services that you're offering to a particular people. So we're saying that it's exploratory. I'm also saying that it is descriptive. There is exploratory and there is also descriptive. Descriptive has to do with explaining market situation, opinions, attitudes, and behavior. And this is done through surveys. Through surveys, you can get a market situation, you can get opinions about your products, you can get to know the attitude and behavior of those that are using your products or your services. Okay, so we have another one, and that is experimental. Experimental has to do with define cause and effect relationship. It has to do with like A and B testing. You pick one, you know, uh, more like cause and effect relationship between two or more products. So there is ethnographic type of research type, and this has to do with observing people in a natural environment who use your products from time to time. So you get to know how your products are being used. So let's look at different data collection uh, methods. Different data collection methods. So we're saying that choosing the right method is key to gathering relevant information, each with pros and cons. Number one, observational research. Observational research, number one. Watching action. You can watch the traffic counts, website navigation, and products interaction. That's under observational research. We're looking at different ways that you can collect data, different methods to which you can collect data. And we're saying number one, observational research, which can be done by watching. You watch traffic, traffic of how your product is being used or how a product is being used, websites, navigation, and product interaction. And we're saying that this can be unobstructed. All right, it can be unobstructed. Number two, one-on-one interview. And this has to do with in-depth responses, tailored questions, deeper understanding. But we said that each of these data collection, they have their pros and they have their cons. So under this, we're saying that it is time consuming. It is time consuming when you're doing a one-on-one interview, to get a particular knowledge about a particular product. It can be time consuming when you get to start asking people in-depth questions about a product, you know, to get deeper understanding about a product. So we're saying it is time consuming. Number three, we have focus groups. Like I said before, focus group actually with a small group discussion, synergy of ideas, and multiple respondents. And we're saying that this can be dominated by strong personalities. Okay? It can be dominated by strong personalities. And most times, you may not get, um, a lot of persons most times may not tend to you may not get deep answers, with this, because a lot of times it can be dominated by strong personalities. Number four, surveys and questionnaires. Surveys and questionnaires. This has a little semblance with one-on-one interviews, like we saw in number two, but I'm saying that it is versatile, large sample, it is quantitative and qualitative, when it comes to data-driven ideas. It can be quantitative and it can also be qualitative. Uh, it can be done through mail, phone, in person, or electronic platform. So, if I were to ask you, of all of this data collection methods, which one will you use if you were to make a marketing research for the organization? Next slide. So designing the sample. How do we design the sample? This each of this slide is just trying to help us define um, some of the things we've seen in the previous slide. So designing the sample. Sampling allows research on a portion of population, saving time and cost. Sampling allows research on a portion of the population, saving time and cost. And we have two types of samples. We have the probability samples and the non-probability samples. Under probability samples, we have simple random and stratified random. In simple random, every member has an equal chance of selection. In simple random, every member of the group has an equal chance of selection. Under stratified random, populations are divided into groups. The random samples, are derived from each of the group. Non-probability samples, we have convenience and we also have judgment. Under convenience, we say that participants are selected based on ease of access, and under judgment, researchers select individual meetings, specific criteria, meeting specific criteria. Okay. We're looking at analyzing and reporting data. We're just taking these things one by one so that just to help us understand, what we comment, please. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Yes. So we had previously talked about the seven steps to a successful marketing research plan. So we're looking at each of these 7 steps, though not all of it. We're just looking at those ones that are really very, very important. We're looking at um, some terminology, some terms under them. So analyzing and reporting data. Data analysis distills information into actionable insights, culminating in a comprehensive research report. Data analysis distills information into actionable insights, culminating in comprehensive research report. We have 3 variants to this. We have data analysis, we have quantifying research, and we have research reports. Under data analysis, we have um, under data analysis, we look at the use of statistics, that's mean, median, and mode. We also look at the use of visualization, which has to do with cross tabulation and infographics to interpret data. So we're looking at how do we analyze this data and how do we report them. We're saying that you can either decide to use data analysis where you use statistics or visualization. So under statistics, we have mean, median, and mode. Under visualization, we have cross tabulation and infographics, to interpret data. Then we have quantifying research. In quantifying research, you measure research by awareness, you measure research by customer satisfaction. You also quantify research by uh, customer acquisition cost and customer effort score. That's under quantify. When you talk about anything, when you talk about quantifying something, it talks about measuring something. So we're looking at how do we measure this research, and we've said that you measure by awareness, you measure by customers' satisfaction, you measure by customers' acquisition cost. Are they buying or are they not buying? How often do they buy? Do they buy? At what rate did they buy our product last month? At what rate did they buy in the previous month? At what rate did they buy this month? So these things put together, it helps you to quantify your research better. Then there is also research reports, which is number 3. And under research reports, you share findings, you share recommendations, and areas for future study. You share your findings, you share your recommendations, and you also share areas for future study. Like I said before, it's not enough that you get findings. If you're doing a research, it's very, very, of course, a lot of times everybody doing course of doing research, always gets findings. Findings are just like, okay, you get a problem. You know a problem, you know its roots, you know where the problem is coming from. But if a research is not complete until you've been able to make recommendation. A research is not complete, by just getting findings. What makes a research complete is your recommendations and how you are able to um, recommend a solution, for future study. That's what makes the research complete. So when you are analyzing and reporting data, it's you don't just analyze the data and quantify the data. You must also do a thorough report. And we're saying that in reporting, you must share the findings, you must share recommendations and areas for future study. It's very, very important. So we'll move to the next slide. Ethical issues in marketing research. Ethical issues in marketing research. Ethical issues in marketing research. Okay? So under this, we're going to be looking at understanding and avoiding unethical practices when we're carrying marketing research. Let's move. Why does ethics matter? We've been talking about marketing research, and we're saying that we want to look at ethical issues in marketing research. Why does ethics matter? Why does ethics matter? I'm trying to come in. Let's just first and understand what does ethics means. Ethics has to do with moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Ethics has to do with moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. So we're looking at how why does ethics matter? Why do we need to be guided, when we are doing our marketing research? Number one, data deluge. So we're saying that number one, we have data deluge. Number two, we have balancing act. And number three, we have avoiding missteps. So under data deluge, we said vast personal data shared daily. And under balancing act, we have benefits of data versus individual privacy. And under the third one, which is avoiding missteps, we have preventing hacks, data selling, and disguised promotion. Why does ethics matter in when we're conducting research? And like I said, that ethics has to do with moral principle that governs a person's behavior. So it's very, very important that we are guided when we are carrying out the research, so that we are not breaching any form of standard. Next slide. There is what we call the Insight Association. That's IA. And the Insight Association are dedicated to quality marketing research. They protect and create demand for insight industry. They promote the role of insights in driving business impact, and they familiarize you with IA code of standard and ethics. So this organization, are created. It's very, very important that you understand that there is an organization like this And what they do is that they they try to familiarize you with their code of standards and ethics, so that you're not crossing any line whatsoever. Next slide. So they are saying that deceptive practice, or we're looking at what are the, since we're talking about being guided when you're making marketing research. So what are the deceptive practices that you must avoid when you're making a research, or when you're making a marketing research? Number one, you must avoid sogging. What is sogging? Sogging has to do with selling products disguised as research. You must avoid sogging, selling products disguised as research. Number two, you must avoid bias. You must avoid using persuasive language to influence answers. And number three, you must avoid fabrication. And fabrication has to do with padding data with fake answers. So these three things are things that you must avoid when you are when you're making a marketing research. Invasion of privacy. We're looking at some of what are the ethical practices that we must put in place when we are conducting a research. And we looked at the deceptive practices such as sogging, bias, and fabrications, which are practices that we must avoid. So let's look at the invasion of privacy. Number one, confidential data. We must understand that in making research, every data must be kept confidential. So researchers know identity, but doesn't share, but they don't share it. So you must make sure that data are confidential. When you're making a market research, you must keep it confidential. There are You know the identity of an information, but you must also learn to keep it, you know, confidential. Anonymous data, we talked about, that's one. Confidential data is one. Number two, anonymous data. So identifying information collected. So researchers must protect personal information, password, and physical security. So 1 minute. My AirPod battery is okay. So we're saying that under the invasion of privacy, researchers must must protect personal information, firewalls, password, and physical security. Bridges of confidentiality. Bridges of confidentiality. So in gathering sensitive information, you must try as much as possible, not to, breach the confidence of the people who are those information. That's number one. Number two, avoid unethical use of the informations. Avoid selling and sharing without consent. Avoid selling or sharing information without the consent of the authors. Then accountability. Researchers must be held responsible. If, for instance, somebody gives you access to an information, You must understand that you must hold on to the principle of accountability. You must try as much as possible to keep the information, or the marketer must try as much as possible to keep the information, you know, one must be responsible for that information. Responsible in the sense that you must be willing to be accountable for that information, not selling the information, to an unlawful person, whether lawful or unlawful. You don't breach the confidence of the persons or the author of the information. Companies with conscience, companies with conscience. We have Doctor Go. So such industry collects millions of user data points, and we have one of those companies. We have Go, does not track users. Business models: no user information is stored ever, and they also offer private searches, tracker blocking, and encryption. We've looked at DuckDuckGo. We're also looking at another company, Gollup, a leader in ethical research. And what they do is that they specialize in market sentiment, in market sentiment. They also specialize in high ethical standards for credible data. Their annual survey on honesty. They have annual survey on honesty and ethics of professions. And as at 2021, they were ranked um, as one of the top um, um, organization when it comes to ethical research. So these are organizations that you can actually use, for when you're trying to get data, or when you're trying to conduct your research. So we're looking at Gollop's commitment to ethics. Number one, their core purpose, and we're saying that ethical standard is at the heart of the organization. And number two, they are diligent. Each research step is completed with intention. And number three, they have global reach. They have locations worldwide, and they maintain high standard. You can make more research on the organization. It's spelled GALLUP. You can make more research on them, but these are just a few things to know about Gollup. So, what are the key things that we can take from, as we round up? What are the key things we can take from this section? Uh, Number one, we said that marketing research is very important, and it is essential for every business success. So if you want to maximize success in your business, it's very, very important that you uh, it's very, very important that you understand the nitty-gritty or the principles of marketing research. Number two, we talked about how to understand data types. We looked at big data, we look at intelligence, and we also look at information system. Uh, One of the things we also talked about is how to follow research process, looking at the 7 steps, to actionable plan. When we talked about defining, trying to go back to that particular slide, we talked about defining coming talked about defining the data, sorry, defining the problem, developing research plan. We talked about selecting data collection method. We also talked about designing the sample. We also talked about collecting the data. We talked about analyzing and interpreting data. And finally, we also talked about preparing the research reports. And uh, I said that it's very, very important that um, you keep in mind that it's not just enough that you find that out. It's also important that you make um, future and strategic decisions that help your your business or help your organization, to maximize success. So, looking at all of this, we have been able to um, talk about marketing research, and that brings us to the end of this section. I think finally we talked about prioritizing ethics, so that you are guided and you also protect consumer information and avoid uh, falling into the trap of deception. All right. Um, all this being said, we've come to the end of today's section. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Israel. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your time and thank you for the session. Thank you so much.